Hairs are mostly composed of an epithelial tissue and keratin that is similar in origin to the epidermis. And the deeper hair structures are embedded within the dermis. The hair follicle is one such structure and is an inward extension of the epidermis down into the dermal tissue. The hair shaft consists primarily of the portion of the hair that is visible from the surface of the skin. Hairs function as sensory structures. They are sensitive to being brushed or touched due to the sensory neurons that wrap the hair follicle within the dermis. Hairs of the nose, ears, and around the eyes function to trap and exclude dust particles from those structures. And many small body hairs trap layers of air in order to add insulation. The erector pili muscles, which are small bands of smooth muscle, which are attached to the hair follicle, cause the hairs to stand up when we are cold, and this functions to trap an insulating layer of warm air close to the skin. We will examine three major glands of the integumentary system. The eccrine sweat glands function to cool the body by evaporation of sweat from the skin's surface. They are found in most skin, and they are particularly abundant on the palms of the hands, the soles of the feet, and on the forehead. They collectively produce about 500 milliliters of sweat on average per day. When they are stimulated by high temperature or vigorous physical activity, they can collectively produce up to 1.5 liters of sweat per hour. They can also be stimulated by stress or anxiety, in which someone would sweat when stressed or anxious, but not necessarily in warm conditions or undergoing physical activity. Sweat contains mostly water, some electrolytes, in particular sodium, and it also contains an antibacterial protein that functions to reduce bacterial growth on the skin's surface. The apocrine sweat glands produce a mixture of sweat, proteins, and lipids, and these glands are associated with hairs in the axilla and genital regions. Sweat from these glands is released under nervous system and hormonal control. They are thought to act somewhat similar to a pheromone, that is, the sweat is thought to act in somewhat of a similar manner to a pheromone. Pheromones are hormone-like compounds that affect the behavior or physiology of other individuals. Most deodorants, especially the aluminum-containing deodorants, function to block the ducts of apocrine sweat glands in order to prevent sweat release. And these glands become active during and after puberty, especially in response to rising testosterone levels seen during puberty. They do not happen to be active prior to puberty. And then finally, we have the sebaceous glands, which produce an oily lipid secretion called sebum. Sebum functions in making the skin water resistant, especially the stratum corneum of the epidermis, and it helps to reduce water loss from deeper tissues. If the glands get infected by skin bacteria, this creates acne. And similar to the apocrine sweat glands, the sebaceous glands also become active during and after puberty due to the activation of the glands by testosterone. Prior to the onset of puberty, these glands are not particularly active.